Okay, so I really despise clickbait. Clickbait articles, clickbait video, clickbait story, anything that's clickbaity. And I'm going to do my best to not use hyperbole on this channel. In this video, I have a chance to say that I was shocked by an itinerary. Shocked, but I wasn't shocked. I was intrigued. I certainly wasn't overwhelmed to tears, and you wouldn't believe what I stumbled on. You won't believe what I saw next. Any of that stuff. I hate that kind of stuff because I'm always disappointed. Just come right out and say what you actually mean instead of trying to get the clicks, right? I don't want to be that guy. But I have to say that in this video, there were a couple times when I saw itineraries, I was kind of impressed. They're not for me. Celebrity still doesn't have an itinerary I've seen where I'm saying this is the cruise for me. But that doesn't mean that any of these itineraries may not capture your business, because you may see some of these itineraries in this video and think to yourself, you know what? This is the cruise for me. Hey, welcome to This is the Cruise. I'm Clint, and this is the channel where we look at upcoming cruise itineraries and try to find out if this is the cruise for you. Today, we're looking at Celebrity Constellation's 2024-2025 Caribbean cruise itineraries. And I gotta say, these are some of the most interesting itineraries that I have seen from Celebrity so far. I'm not saying they're all bangers, don't get me wrong, but there are some that you might be able to say, this is the cruise. And you'll see what I mean when we get there. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick look at Celebrity Constellation and where she fits into the fleet. We're going to take a quick look at the regions Constellation is sailing in the Caribbean. I'm going to show a couple of interesting itineraries. I'll throw in a couple that I'd probably avoid. In fact, there are some on here that I would definitely avoid. And then I'm going to show you one itinerary that legitimately surprised me. For real. I was doing my research. I got up, I went to my wife and said, sweetheart, you got to see this. This is like, check this out. And she said, we would never go on that cruise. And I said, I know, but check it out. And then I'll pick a This is the Cruise winner for the Constellation itineraries. As always, I gotta say, I'm on YouTube, so I need you to like, I need you to subscribe. It's super easy to do. It really helps me out. Hit that notification bell because I do have 2 more Celebrity cruise itinerary videos coming up. And then if I've helped you find an itinerary, if anything I've done has been helpful and you think it would be reasonable to maybe buy me a cup of coffee, I have a secure and safe link in the description below where you can do just that. A number of you have done that for me and it's so appreciated. It helps me go purchase better lights, get better sound, and invest that money back into the channel. So thank you very much for that. And another way you can help the channel is by becoming a member. Membership offers you a few extra perks, a couple of which are maybe more interesting, like a discount on merchandise. And almost every week someone asks me about if I make my ratings available. Is the spreadsheet you use available? How can I get access to the data? Becoming a member helps support that effort, and I am working diligently on my application where it's a database web app where all of this is available. You can sort and filter and all that. So that will be made available to members, and this is a way that you can help out that effort. Okay, so let's take a look at the Celebrity Constellation. She was built in 2002 and is a Millennium class ship. The most recent class of ships are the Edge class, and they're brand new. They're really new. They're still launching Edge class ships. They're beautiful. Prior to the Edge class, we had the Solstice class ships. Those kind of started coming into their own around 2010, let's just say. And the Edge class ships were around 2020. The Millennium class ships came out around the turn of the millennium, around the year 2000. So here we have 2002, not the oldest Millennium class ship, but she's been sailing for a while. Her last refurbishment currently was in 2021. That's relatively recent in cruise ship years. She's been retrofitted, updated, and I will say these Millennium class ships are highly regarded. They're well loved, though they are a bit older. They're a little bit smaller, but that can make for a more intimate cruising experience. I have no problem personally with this size of ship, this age of ship, and I think the experience can often be better because of it. She carries approximately 2,100 passengers, 2,200 passengers, kind of in that range. Cruise Critic gives her a score of 4.5. I use Cruise Critic score in my itinerary ratings, so that will be consistent across the board here. As far as the itineraries themselves go, Celebrity Constellation is doing round-trip sailings from Tampa. That's unlike all of the other reviews we've done so far, which have left from Fort Lauderdale. So we've moved to the other side of the state for Florida. That does put her closer to the Western Caribbean for Western Caribbean sailings, and we're going to see that emphasized here. Let's quickly run through where she's sailing. So leaving from Tampa, she sails to Cozumel, Costa Maya, Belize City, Belize, and Roatan, Honduras. Those are the primary destinations that she's doing. You will see some stops where she also gets over to Progreso, Mexico, as well as Grand Cayman. Those are a little further away, especially Grand Cayman would probably be the outlier. Fewer stops yet go to Key West and Bimini and Nassau, Bahamas, kind of heading east into the Bahama area as well. So we've got a few of those sprinkled in to look out for. So we see this blending of the Bahamian and Western Caribbean destinations. And then there was that shocking destination that I was surprised by, or really just surprised by. And then I was intrigued. And then we said, yeah, you'll see. So let me start out with an interesting Western Caribbean itinerary. This one got my attention. It's the 10-night New Orleans and Caribbean that leaves January 2nd, 2025. This could kind of be considered an ultimate Western Caribbean cruise. Again, we have 10 nights. We go to Cozumel, Belize, Honduras, and Costa Maya with the bonus, shocking, interesting, intriguing stop of New Orleans. So we leave Tampa, head over to New Orleans, head on down to Cozumel, Belize, Honduras, and then Costa Maya. Not in that order, but we head down that way, and then we make our way back. Now that is intriguing to me. Partly it's a 10-day. We are getting a Western Caribbean destination, and if I've never cruised the Western Caribbean before, I may be looking at this one if I have those 10 days. But there are some issues with this itinerary. First off, there are too many sea days. We leave Tampa, and then we have a sea day to get over to New Orleans. We leave New Orleans, and then we have 2 sea days to get down to Honduras. Then we cruise down in that area, and then we have another sea day to get back to Tampa. That's 5 stops and 4 sea days. My scoring automatically deducts any extra sea days beyond a 2-to-1 port to sea day ratio, and this is almost a 1-to-1. That's not great in my book. We're on a small, albeit nice, celebrity ship, and we're spending 4 days at sea on a 10-day itinerary. Not great. Plus the price. Some of this is because it's right around the new year, but we're now really essentially after the holiday season. It's January 2nd that we leave, and we don't get back till January 12th. It's a long sailing, and now we're into January. Prices at time of recording for a balcony were $1,700, and then for a inside room were $1,000. That's kind of pricey for this itinerary. And you'll see an alternative coming up here in a second and why I say that. This one does get a Clint's Cruisability score of 18.8. And a lot of that is kind of the duration, and there are some good stops here. So if you do get a good deal on this and you have time off at the beginning of the new year, go for it. I mean, it's not going to be a bad cruise. However, there is a 7-night Honduras, Belize, and Mexico itinerary that leaves January 26th or March 9th, which is spring break season, that visits Cozumel, Belize, Honduras, and Costa Maya. So you're really taking out the New Orleans stop. You have 1 sea day down to get to that region, and then 1 sea day back. That's a 4 stops to 2 sea day ratio. We're back to our 2-to-1 ratio. That's what I want to see. Good job, Celebrity, on that. It does remove New Orleans, right? But stay tuned, because there's something interesting coming up there. This one is $1,200 for a balcony and $675 for an inside room, and that is including the March sailing, which is spring break. So for spring break prices, this is a really intriguing option. This one gets a Clint's Cruisability score of 17.45. It doesn't take the deduction that the previous itinerary took for the too many sea days, but it doesn't have quite as much variety as I would like, because we are spending quite a bit of time in Mexico. But it's okay. For a Western Caribbean itinerary, this is pretty solid. Let me just quickly cover some of the ones to avoid. I'm gonna do these kind of quick fire here. First, if it goes to the Bahamas, the Constellation getting over to the Bahamas is then gonna turn around and generally come back into the Western Caribbean itinerary, into the Western Caribbean. That's just kind of a weird jump east to west, and it does mean you spend too much time at sea. The 7-night Key West Bahamas itinerary that sails on January 19th, 2025 gets a Clint's Cruisability score of 11.62. The 7-night Bahama and Mexico holiday sailing that leaves on December 20th, 2024 gets a Clint's Cruisability score of 12.11. This goes Bimini, Nassau, Cozumel, and it's expensive. Of course, it's right in the holiday season, but there are better holiday cruises out there that are all kind of in that same price point. I would rather do one of those that even Celebrity is doing. So I can't really recommend this one. Then there is a 6-night Key West and Cayman holiday cruise that leaves on December 27th. So you're gonna have New Year's. This is only a 6-night. This one has 2 stops, Key West and Grand Cayman. And actually, it is the lowest scoring Celebrity itinerary of all 83 across the entire fleet this Caribbean cruise season, with a Clint's Cruisability score of 10.6. For perspective, Celebrity, if we look at all of their itineraries, the highest scoring is 28.5 and the lowest scoring is 10.6. Constellation takes the prize. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to find out which itinerary actually gets that top prize in a couple of videos from now. Most of these Constellation sailings score on the lower side. I'll put a graphic up here on the screen and kind of show you where they're sitting. There's only a couple that score really high, and that 10-night isn't the highest yet. The highest scoring itinerary that Celebrity Constellation is sailing is the 12-night Ultimate Caribbean and the Americas. This one is another really interesting one. Again, it leaves from Tampa. Tampa's an interesting port to leave from because there are less cruises that leave from Tampa than, say, Fort Lauderdale, Miami, or certainly Cape Canaveral. So this one starts out in Tampa, then you have a sea day and goes to Grand Turk, Grand Caymans. Here, my wife and I have swam with stingrays a couple of times, and we love that excursion. It is so much fun going to Stingray Island and get in the water, and those big stingrays like cats come up and swim alongside you and kind of brush up against you. It's great. We love it. But the Cayman Islands are a beautiful sort of beach destination as well. It's another great thing to do. Just hang out on the beach and rest and relax. You are now in an ultimate Caribbean experience when you're doing that. It's a great way to kick it off. Then we're going to have another sea day, and then we're going to have a stop in Cartagena, Colombia, but it's not just a stop, it's an overnight, which means we get 2 days to explore this actually really incredible place. What we would be doing, I've never been to Cartagena. I have family that has been to Cartagena. And like I said, the city is absolutely beautiful. What has happened and changed over the last 20 years there is just remarkable. So we'd want to be spending some time in the city for sure. And then maybe the next day go island hopping and get out onto the beaches around out into the waters. What a great destination. Good job, Celebrity, with doing something different here. The next stop then you're going to go to is Cologne, Panama. Now, when you look at the map, you might think this is a Panama Canal cruise. It is not. A Panama Canal cruise will spend a day cruising into the canal. This one just stops in Cologne there by the canal. But what that means is you do have an option. If it were us, we would not go on a Panama Canal excursion. I think that's that's interesting. But I would want to do that on a true Panama Canal cruise when we are going into the canal, cruising up in, whether it's a through cruise or a just where you go into the lake, turn around and come back. that's what I would be doing there, focusing on the canal. This one, I'm actually going to want to take the chance to get into the rainforest and hit one of the nature preserves. Panama has some beautiful rainforest to explore. I like that idea. I don't think I'd want to do an excursion that's just exploring the canal unless I've already been here before and that's what I would want to see. But for me, as a first-time visitor, I would want to check out the nature preserves. Then we're going to go to Puerto Limon, Costa Rica. Puerto Limon, Costa Rica. I have friends that live in Costa Rica. And I would, if it were me, I would just let them know I was going to be there. However, for you, I would do like a sloth canal eco tour. I just think that would be fascinating. Something that those of us up in the States don't really get to experience. This is pretty cool. I'm liking this so far. Then we're going to have 2 sea days as we make our way up to Cozumel, head kind of back north. Cozumel, I've been to a bunch of times, and at this stage, I start to struggle with things to do. I will say that the best thing we've ever done in Cozumel is sailing on the America's Cup sailing boats, and you actually do a race, kind of a simulated race. 2 boats go out, you get assigned a task, you may be cranking things or pulling sails. It's a lot of fun. Highly, highly recommend it, but space is really limited. So if you can get in on that early, go for it in Cozumel. There are likely going to be ships with you in Cozumel, so you gotta book that earlier than later. Then you're gonna have a sea day as you make your way back to Tampa. This itinerary, again, is the highest scoring itinerary. Part of that is because we have more diverse stops. It's also a little bit longer, so we get things in. We don't have as many stops as we could because we have that overnight in Cartagena, so it's understandable. This one gets a Clint's Cruisability score of 24.28. 24.28. It is the highest scoring Celebrity Constellation itinerary this season by my calculations. It's not the highest celebrity scoring itinerary, but it is pretty decent and certainly an interesting itinerary, right? Okay, so what's next? What had me get out of my chair and go to my wife and say, you need to check this out. This is the most interesting itinerary that I think I have seen from Celebrity. And again, interesting doesn't mean it's the cruise for me, but it might be the cruise for you. This is an 8-night, they call it New Orleans and the Caribbean. It's an 8-night cruise and it leaves March 1st. We're gonna depart Tampa on March 1st. We're then gonna have a sea day on March 2nd to get us over to New Orleans on March 3rd. And then we're going to spend the night in New Orleans and then the day on March 4th. And if you suddenly are really interested in this cruise because of those dates, then this might be the cruise for you. For the rest of us who are going, what's the big deal? March 4th is Mardi Gras. So now, to finish up this itinerary, we're then going to have a sea day after New Orleans. We're going to make our way down to Progreso, Mexico, which is fine. It would be an interesting stop, maybe do some historical. We would be going to visit some Mayan ruins for sure. That's exactly how we'd spend our time in Progreso. And then you have a sea day as you come back to Tampa. But think about this for a second. If you really wanted to go to Mardi Gras, what do you have to do? Let's say you weren't cruising, but you really wanted to go to Mardi Gras. Well, you got to get to New Orleans when the most people are going to New Orleans. You have to get a hotel somewhere around New Orleans where you can somehow get downtown to party and do the parades and just experience the very vibrant, exciting atmosphere. And everything, all the hotels, everything around there are going to be expensive, right? Okay. I think is genius. So you get on a ship in Tampa, you unpack because that ship, Celebrity Constellation, is your hotel room. I spend the next day transporting myself to New Orleans. That's cool. I don't have to worry about getting to New Orleans. I then have my hotel all ready because I'm already unpacked. And then I get to get off the ship the day before Mardi Gras, maybe do something cool. I will say like a bayou type of tour, if they're available, that's really cool. And you don't have to worry about getting back to the ship because it's not going to leave. So go do that because that's further out of the city. If you wanted to do something like that, we did like an alligator type of tour where our guide was on like a small airboat and took us around. It was very, very cool. That was not on a cruise. That was just going to New Orleans. So you could do that. And then the next day, you're going to get up. You could have breakfast on the ship. Or you could just get off the ship and go to a beignet place. Let me see. I'm going to give you a recommendation. Okay, so I would go for breakfast to Cafe Beignet on Canal Street. In fact, I have gone to Cafe Beignet for breakfast on Canal Street, and it was amazing. It is going to be about a 24-minute walk, so give yourself 30 minutes, and you're going to need that walk because the food is excellent. So good. So you get to Canal Street, you're close to Bourbon Street, which is actually where I would go for dinner. These are places, if I was on this cruise, this is where I'd go. So Bourbon, I would be going to Bourbon House for lunch then. I was at Bourbon House relatively recently, and I'm a certified bourbon steward, and I looked at the bourbon menu and I was shocked. No, I was pleasantly surprised at the selection was great. And then I asked for a specific bottle of Maker's Mark Private Select, and the waitress was like, that's a strange request, but then the bartender brought it over. I got to look at it, and then I was there with a party. There was about 6 of us, and I said, I'm going to have this. And then she said, and what would you gentlemen like to drink? And they all pointed at me and said, we have no idea. He's had the drink menu the entire time. But the service was great. The food was really good. The drinks are really good. Lunch may be a little early to be drinking bourbon, but maybe not. So, it's up to you. Just saying, Bourbon House on Bourbon Street, a great place to go for food. And then, of course, Beignet Cafe on Canal Street for breakfast. The French Quarter, the food in New Orleans is so good, right? Okay. So what? This itinerary, it's not shocking. It's a bit surprising, certainly interesting, and might be the cruise for you if you have been wanting to go to Mardi Gras and check out the scene, right? It's such an easy way to do it. And I gotta tip my hat. I gotta tip my This Is the Cruise hat to Celebrity and say, way to go on this itinerary. Well done, honestly, well done. Okay, but looking at all of these, which itinerary can I say this is the cruise? Well, if I had to pick one, it would be that 7-night Honduras, Belize, and Mexico itinerary that either leaves January 26th or March 9th. I think that March 9th sailing is a viable spring break option. The itinerary is solid, 4 stops, 2 sea days, a really nice ship, great food, great service that Celebrity is known for, and I don't think that you could go wrong. And with that, I gotta say, stay happy, stay healthy, stay cruising.